we are going to learn about JSP. JSP stands for Java Server Pages. Here is the definition of Java Server Pages. Java Server Pages JSP is a server-side programming technology that enables the creation of dynamic, platform-independent method for building web-based applications. We are going to learn about how to convert HTML into JSP. JSP simply puts Java inside HTML pages. You can take any existing HTML page and change its extension to JSP instead of HTML. In fact, this is the perfect exercise for your first JSP. Now load JSP file in web browser. You will see the same output, but it will take longer, but only the first time. If you reload it again, it will load normally. The reason behind this is we are going to see in the next slide. Here we can see the figure which explains how JSP request is handled by the server. When we write URL into the web browser, the web browser sends it to the server. That is indicated by the arrow. Its name is request URL for JSP page. After getting the request, server retrieves the data from the storage. Data means the file which is requested by the client. After getting the file from the storage, the server executes the embedded Java code in the HTML page and sends those results and HTML to the client, and the client will show it in the browser. In the next tutorial, we are going to see how to set up the environment for the JSP. Hello friends, in this video tutorial we are going to learn how JSP environment is set up. As we know that JSP uses Java, so we need to tell the operating system that Java is installed where. This step involves downloading and implementation of the Java Software Development Kit SDK and setting up path environment variable appropriately. A development environment is where you would develop your JSP programs, test them, and finally run them. First of all, you need to download Java SDK latest version from the below URL. The URL is given below. Follow the instructions to install and configure the setup. Finally, set path and Java home environment variables to refer to the directory that contains Java and Java C. Typically, Java _install _dir/bin and Java _install _dir respectively. Java _install _dir is the directory name of Java. It is the directory where we have installed Java software. If you are running Windows and install the SDK in C/JDK 1.5.0_20, then right click on My Computer, select Properties, then Advanced System Settings, then Environment Variables, then you would update the path value and press the OK button. Let us perform the above operations. Click on Start. I assume that you are using Windows 7. After clicking Start, click on Computer. Right click on Computer and select Properties. This is the window of System Properties. On the left hand side, we have Device Manager, Remote Settings, System Protection and Advanced System Settings. On the bottom hand, we have other links. We have to select Advanced System Settings. Click on that. In System Properties window, we have 5 tabs. We have to select Advanced tab and click on Environment Variables. I have already set the path, which is C program files Java JDK version name /bin. I will repeat the procedure. See that here no path variable exists. Click on New. We have two names, rather two fields, variable name, variable value. Variable name is path. Now variable value is the path where bin directory is existing. Click on My Computer. C drive. I have installed 18 program files in Java, JDK folder and bin. Now copy the whole path and paste it. Click OK. Now the variable is having its value. Click OK. Click OK. Whether it is working or not, click on cmd. It is the command prompt. Click on that. Write Java C. If it shows such output, then it is working. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn how to install a server. Setting up web server. Tomcat. Set Java underscore home in environment variable as Java underscore install underscore dir slash JDK version directory according to the previous tutorial. So this statement says that we have to set Java underscore home variable in the environment variable. Its value will be Java home directory slash JDK directory. A number of servers are available in the market that support JSP. We will learn how to install Apache Tomcat server. It is an open source server available in the market. It is freely available. Download the latest version from this given link. After downloading, unpack the binary distribution into convenient location. For example, in C/Apache Tomcat 5.5.29 on Windows. Create Catalina underscore home environment variable pointing to above location, that is C/Apache Tomcat. Now we can start Tomcat server by executing the following commands: C/Apache Tomcat directory name /bin/startup.bat. After the server is started, we can use the functionalities provided by the server. We can stop the server by executing the following command: C/Apache Tomcat directory /bin/shutdown. Now we will do it practically. Click on Start, right click on Computer, select Properties, click on Advanced System Settings. On the Advanced tab, click on Environment Variables, click on New, right here Java Home, here write the Java Home value, that will be the JDK directory path. Go into the JDK directory and copy the path of JDK directory. Click OK. I have forgot to set Catalina home variable, so I will repeat the procedure. Its value will be the Apache directory path. This is the compressed file, so we have to extract it. I am putting it in the C directory. Copy this path and paste it into the Catalina home variable. Now click OK. Now to start the server, we have to go to the server directory, that is Apache Tomcat directory. Then inside the bin directory we have startup.bat. Double click on that. We can access it by the URL http://localhost:8080. This is the Apache server home page. Now close it. To shut down the server, we click on shutdown.bat, which is located in the bin directory in the Apache folder. This is the server window. If I am clicking on the shutdown file, then this server window will be closed. Now the server is closed. This is the directory where we can put our JSP files so that we can run it into the browser. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn the JSP lifecycle. Before going to learn JSP lifecycle, we will learn which are the categories of the JSP page. JSP is a Java technology to give client dynamic, well-defined and secure content. The JavaServer Pages 1.2 specification provides web developers with a framework to build applications containing dynamic web content such as HTML, DHTML, XHTML and XML. Most of a JSP file is a plain HTML, but it also has special JSP tags. JSP page is divided into two categories. 1. Elements that are processed on the server. These elements are the embedded JSP tags. Second is template data, that is the static data. The embedded JSP tags called elements are classified into following categories: directives, scripting elements and standard actions. We will learn these categories into the next video tutorials. This is the JSP lifecycle. There are 4 steps of JSP lifecycle. First, JSP compilation. Second, JSP initialization. Third, JSP execution. And 4, JSP cleanup. Let us talk about the first step. First step is JSP compilation. When a browser asks for JSP, the JSP engine will check to see whether it needs to compile the page. If the page has never been compiled, or if JSP has been modified after the last compilation, then JSP engine compiles the page. Second step is JSP initialization. In this step, the container will call the JSP init method. In this method, we generally initialize database connections, open files, and create lookup tables. Third step is JSP execution. Whenever a browser requests a JSP and the page has been loaded and initialized, the JSP engine invokes _JSP service method in the JSP. This method takes an HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response as its parameters. This method is responsible for generating the response for the request, and this method is also responsible for generating responses to all the HTTP methods like get, post, etc. Last step is JSP cleanup. In this method, it will destroy the JSP. JSP destroy method will release database connections or closing open files, or the actions which need to be executed at the end of the execution of the JSP page. Welcome friends. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about implicit objects. Object is an instance of a class. JSP implicit objects are the Java objects that the JSP container makes available to developers in each page, and developer can call them directly without being explicitly declared. JSP implicit objects are also called predefined variables. There are total 9 implicit objects are available in JSP: request, response, out, session, application, config, page context, page, and exception. We are going to learn about all of them one by one. Request implicit object. Request object is an instance of javax.servlet.http.http servlet request object. Each time a client requests a page, the JSP engine creates a new object to represent that request. The request object provides methods to get HTTP header information, including form data, cookies, and HTTP methods, etc. Response implicit object. It is an instance of a Java class that implements the javax.servlet.http.http servlet response interface. It represents the response to be given to the client. It is used to set the response content type, to add the cookie, and redirect the response. Out implicit object. It is an instance of the javax.servlet.jsp.jsp writer class. It is used to write content to be sent to the client. Session implicit object. The session object is an instance of javax.servlet.http.http session class. It is used to save session information of a particular user. Application implicit object. It is an instance of a javax.servlet.servletContext object. It is used to retrieve information about the web application in which JSP is running. Config implicit object. It is an instance of javax.servlet.servletConfig class. It gives facility for a JSP page to obtain the configuration parameters available. Page context implicit object. It is an instance of a javax.servlet.jsp.pageContext object. It is used to access several page attributes, and it also contains reference to implicit objects. Page implicit object. It is an instance of the java.lang.object class. It references to the Java servlet object that implements the JSP page. Exception implicit object. It is an instance of the java.lang.throwable class. It represents the occurred exception description for the JSP page. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about scripting in JSP. JSP programmers can insert Java code and logic in a JSP using scripting. JavaServer Pages present dynamically generated output which is to be sent to the client. Scripting components are scriptlets, comments, expressions, declarations, and escape sequences. Let's have a look at this sample program, scriptlet.jsp. These are the delimiters of scriptlet. Inside it, I have written out.println function. Out.println function directly writes the text to the client's browser. Below it we have single line comment. Next is the multiple line comment. We can have multiple line comment between these two delimiters. Next is a JSP comment. These are the delimiters and we cannot insert it inside the scriptlet. Next is the XHTML comment. We also can't put it inside the scriptlet. These are the delimiters of XHTML comment. Next is JSP expression. There is a difference between scriptlet delimiters and JSP expressions. We have equal sign here in JSP expression. I have written an expression inside the JSP expression tags. When JSP page is executed, the JSP engine will convert the expression to the string and output that string to the client as a part of the response. Next is JSP declarations. These are the JSP delimiters. Inside JSP declaration, we can declare a variable and functions. I have declared an integer named 8 and value is set to 8. There are several special characters in JSP or escape sequences. I have taken example of two escape sequences, that is /double quote and /single quote. I have stored them in variable 1 and variable 2 respectively, and I have printed it into the browser. Let's run the sample. Look at the output carefully. This is scriptlet testing inside scriptlet. Below there is a time, date. In the third line, 8 is printed, in the fourth double quote and in the fifth single quote. Now look at the source code. This out.println line has printed the line "This is scriptlet testing" inside scriptlet. BR is used for new line. Single line comment and multiple line comment are not printed. We have printed time by using this expression. I have printed value of A from here. I have printed double quote and single quote from here. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn standard actions. Using standard actions, we can include content from other resources, forward requests to other resources, and interact with Java beans. Action JSP include enables dynamic content to be included in Java server page at request time. It has two attributes. First, page attribute. It specifies the URL path of the resource to be included. Second is flush attribute. It specifies whether the buffer should be flushed after the include is performed. Specifying this attribute is mandatory. Currently, Flush attribute suppose only true value. This is the sample file main.jsp. Let's run it. The output is as expected. Let's view the source code. Close it. Close the browser. I have not included any file. Now I am including a file. I have included a file called date.jsp. This is the content of date.jsp. I have used Java expression in this file. Now go to the main.jsp and run it. We can see that there is a change in the page. Let's view the source code. We can see that these 3 lines are added after I have included the file named date.jsp. We can see that when a browser requests for main.jsp and when this action is executed, the date.jsp content will be put here. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about standard actions. Action JSP forward enables a JSP to forward request processing to a different resource. Request processing by the original JSP terminates as soon as the JSP forwards the request. This action has only a page attribute that specifies the relative URL of the resource of the same web application to which the request should be forwarded. Syntax is given below. A relative URL of the page, it can be a static page, JSP page or a servlet. This is the sample file to demonstrate the use of forward actions. We can see that the page attribute is set to forward.jsp. So when we will run this file, the control will be forwarded to forward.jsp page. Look at the sample file source code. I have used 2 param actions. In the first, I have set name to ID and value to 23. In the second, I have set name to marks and value to 98. Let's run the program. Look at the output, friends. Let's go back to the source code. When this sample file is loaded, the control is forwarded to the forward.jsp file. So we will see the source code of forward.jsp. Here we can see that in the scriptlet I have printed 2 lines, and the next 2 lines prints the name value pair, ID and value, marks and value. This is how we can use the forward action with param action. In the previous tutorial, we have learned include action. There is a difference between include action and the forward action. In case of include action, the included file is executed and its contents are copied to the file in which the include action is used. But in case of forward action, the control is not coming back to the calling file. In this case, the calling file is main.jsp. Welcome friends. In this tutorial, we are going to learn standard actions in JSP. Action JSP useBin enables a JSP to manipulate a Java object. This action creates a Java object or locates an existing object for use in the JSP. It has several attributes. They are ID, scope, class, bin name and type. ID attribute. The name used to manipulate the Java object with actions JSP set property and JSP get property. A variable of this name is also declared for use in JSP scripting elements. The name specified here is case sensitive. Scope attribute. The scope in which the Java object is accessible. It can be page, request, session or application. The default scope is page. Class attribute. It is the qualified class name of Java object. Bin name attribute. It is the name of bin that can be used with method instantiate of class java.beans to load a Java bin into memory. Type attribute. It is the type of the Java bin. It can be the same type as the class attribute, a superclass of that type or an interface implemented by that type. This is the sample program to demonstrate the use of useBin action. The ID attribute of useBin is set to test and class is set to mypackage.useBin. The name attribute of set property action is set to test, property is set to message and value is set to hello useBin. The name attribute of get property action is set to test and property is set to message. Now go to the useBin.java class. Here we have declared a string message and we have set the two functions getMessage and setMessage. GetMessage returns the message string value and setMessage sets the message string. Now go to the main.jsp and run it. See the output carefully. The output is message : hello use bin. Now go to the source code. The set property action sets the message to hello use bin, and get property gets the value of message. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial we are going to learn about directives in JSP. Directives are messages to the JSP container that enable the programmer to specify page settings such as the error page, to include content from other resources, and to specify custom tag libraries for use in the JSP. Directives are processed at translation time. Hence, directives do not produce any immediate output because they are processed before the JSP accepts any requests. There are three types of directives in JSP: page, include, and tag library. Page directive. It defines page settings for the JSP container to process. The syntax is given below. Attributes for page directive are as below. Language. The scripting language used in the JSP. Extends attribute. It specifies the class from which the translated JSP will be inherited. Import attribute. It specifies a comma-separated list of fully qualified type names and packages that will be used in the current JSP. Session attribute. It specifies whether the page participates in a session. The values for this attribute are true, participates in a session, the default, or false, does not participate in a session. Buffer attribute. It specifies the buffer size of the output buffer used with the implicit object out. It can be set to none for no buffering, or set to any size. The default size of the buffer is 8 KB. Auto flush attribute. When it is set to true, the output buffer for implicit object out flushed automatically when the buffer fills. If it is set to false, gives error when the buffer overflows. Is thread shape attribute. If it is set to true, then the JSP page can process multiple requests at the same time. If it is set to false, then only one request can be processed by that JSP at a time. Content type attribute. It specifies the MIME type of the data in the response to the client. The default type is text HTML. This is the sample file to demonstrate the use of page directive. You can see that in the first line we have used a page directive, and import attribute is set to java.util.star. So in java.util package we have many functionalities. I have used several of them. You can see there are 3 functionalities I have used. Let's run the example. See the output carefully. Close the browser. The day of the month is printed from here. The month is printed from here and year is printed from here. These are all the functionalities of java.util package. Welcome friends, in this tutorial we are going to learn directives in JSP. Include directive. It includes the content of another resource once at JSP translation time. The include directive has only one attribute, file, that specifies the URL of the resource to include. Tag library, directive. It is used to insert custom tags in JSP page. Syntax is given below. URL. It locates the library. Prefix attribute. It defines the prefix for the custom tag. This is the sample program to demonstrate the use of include and tag library directives. See the code carefully. We can see that between the two dotted lines we have included a file called include.jsp and below it we have used tag library directive. URL is set to http java.sun.com JSP GSTL core and prefix is set to C. So all the custom tags are prefixed by C. Let's run the program. See the output carefully. Now go back to the source code. Let's see the include.jsp file. We can see that there are 3 lines which is resulted by the include.jsp. Let's go back to the main.jsp. So this include tag is replaced by the include.jsp file contents, and this is the usage of include directive. Now see the last line. We have used a custom tag. It is prefixed by C and this attribute and value are fetched from the URL. That is the tag library. Welcome friends. In this tutorial we are going to learn sessions in JSP. HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol. That means that it can't persist the data. HTTP treats each request as a new request. So every time you will send a request, you will be considered as a new user. It is not reliable when you are doing user specific operations. The solution of the above problem is session management. Session management. When a client is authenticated using login information, the unique session ID or the token is generated to identify the client. After that,
All the requests from the client are identified by the session ID or the token. It can be achieved by the following functionalities: cookies, URL rewriting, hidden form fields, and session, that is the implicit object. Cookies, they are the object of javax.servlet.http.cookie class. They are stored on client side. URL rewriting. In URL rewriting, destination page URL is modified to track the user. This is the sample file to demonstrate the use of cookie. See that cookie object is created. We have passed two arguments in the constructor of cookie. First argument is the name of cookie, that is the username, and second argument is the value of cookie. Value is user1. In the second line, we have set the age of the cookie. It is the 24 hours. The argument is in seconds. And in the third line, we have added cookie to the browser. Let's run the code. See the output. We can see that cookie is set successfully. This is how we can add the cookie in the browser. Now let's see how to get a cookie value. I have created an object of class cookie. Request.getCookies function returns all the cookies which exist in the browser. In the for loop, we have tested that whether the username cookie is exist or not. If it is existed, then we have checked that whether its value is user1 or not. If it is there, then we have printed it in the browser. Now let's see the example of rewrite URL. It may happen that some browser has disabled the cookies. In that case, we can use URL rewriting. See here that this page redirects the control to handleuser.jsp by providing some values. Let's run this file. It prints welcome Sam. See the URL handleuser.jsp. So we will see the code of handleuser.jsp. See here that between the scriptlet we have get the value of user using request.get parameter. Go back to the previous file. We have set the value of user to Sam in the URL. So handleuser.jsp now can perform the user specific operations. This is how we can track the user. If we want to redirect the user from handleuser.jsp to some another page, then again we will set user to Sam and redirect to the other page. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial, you are going to learn about sessions in JSP. In previous video tutorial, you have learned about cookies and URL writing methods. In this video tutorial, you are going to learn hidden form fields and session. Hidden form fields. It is one of the way to maintain the session. In hidden form fields, the HTML entry will be like this. Input type equal to hidden, name equal to whatever the name will be, and value equal to null. When you submit the form, the specified name and value will be get included in get or post method. Session, implicit object. The connection between client and the server is provided by session object. The session objects do not lose the variables and the value remains for the user session. Mostly used objects method are set attribute and get attribute. Set attribute. This method sets the value of object as strings value, and you can get this value in other JSP page which is connected to this page. Get attribute. This method is used to fetch the value of string which is set by you in other JSP page using set attribute method. This is the sample file to demonstrate the use of hidden fields. This is the form tag. Action attribute is set to getting hidden field .jsp. Method attribute is set to post, and we have used one text field and one hidden field. Text field name is name and value is set to null. Hidden field name is hidden and value is set to. This is demo of hidden field. When we click on the submit button, the control will be transferred to getting hidden field.jsp. Now let's run the program. Enter your name. Click on submit. See the output carefully. Welcome Jack. We can read hidden fields. The hidden text is this is demo of hidden field. Now go back to the source code. Now go to the getting hidden field.jsp. We can see that Jack was printed by the first scriptlet. The name parameter is fetched from the hidden for.jsp. And the hidden text was printed by request.get parameter hidden. That is the second scriptlet. This file demonstrates the use of session implicit object. We can see that action is set to processForm.jsp and method is post. We have used a text box. When we click on the submit, the control will be transferred to processForm.jsp. Let's run the program. Enter the name. Click submit. This page is processForm.jsp. There is a link inside it go to your profile, click on it. It says welcome Sam. This file is profile.jsp. Now go back to the source code. When we clicked on this form, we were redirected to the processform.jsp. So look at the processform.jsp. We can see that in this program we are getting parameter name, and we are using the setAttribute method to set the session. The session name is id and its value is name. Below it we have a hyperlink which is redirecting us to the profile.jsp. Let's see the code of profile.jsp. It prints the attribute of session ID. In the previous program we have set the attribute ID to same, so it will print same. Welcome friends. In this video tutorial you are going to learn database connectivity in JSP. In this tutorial we will learn how to connect JSP with MySQL. Steps to create connectivity with MySQL. Download and install MySQL server. The link is given below. Create database. We have used student database. Download MySQL connector jar file from the given link. Add the jar file to project library so that we can connect to the MySQL database. Now last step is connect to database using JDBC driver. Following functionalities will be used in connectivity. Try catch. Within the try block we will write the statements to connect MySQL server. If there is an error, then control will go to the catch block. In catch block we will write the error handling code. Class.forName .new instance. Class.forName loads the driver com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Driver manager .get connection. This function takes 3 arguments. First argument is connection URL, that is the location of database. Second argument is username, that is root. Third argument is password for the user root. See that in connection URL we are providing port of the MySQL server. Here it is 3306, the default value, but it may happen that default port is not working and MySQL is working on other port. In this case we have to find the port on which MySQL is running. Now open MySQL command line client. it asks for root password. In this system, root password is set to null, so I will press enter. To find the MySQL TCP IP port, write show variables like port in single quote. You can see that the port value is 3306. It is the default port for MySQL. Now go back to the slide. Connection class object. It is the identifier to the connection. Connection.close. It closes the current connection. Welcome friends. This tutorial demonstrates how JSP connects to MySQL server. This is the main.jsp file. Look at the scriptlet. First line. First line is try and the opening brace. Here the try block starts. First line is connection URL is equal to JDBC MySQL localhost 3306 student. So we are setting connection URL string to database URL. Next line is we are creating a connection object to null. In the next line we have class.forName.new instance. It loads the JDBC driver com.mysql.jdbc.driver. In the next line, the function used is driver manager.getConnection. It has three parameters: connection URL, the username that is root, and the password. In this case, the password is null. In the next line, we are checking whether the connection is closed or not. If it is not closed, then we are printing the message that we have successfully connected to MySQL. And in the next line, we are closing the connection. In the next line, try block closes. In the next line, catch block is started. In the catch block, we are printing that unable to connect to database and printing the error type. Let's run the program. We are getting the error unable to connect to the database. Let's see the code. By observing the code, we can see that there is no error in the code. We have forgot to add the MySQL connector jar file to this project. Let's do it. Right click on the library, click on add library, select the library. connector. Click on Add Library. Now run the program. Error occurred. Let's stop the Glassfish server and rebuild the program. Now run the main.jsp. Successfully connected to MySQL server using TCP/IP. Welcome friends. In this tutorial, you are going to learn how login page in JSP works. See the code carefully. We can see that action attribute of form is set to the link of a servlet whose name is a login and method is set to post. We have used a text box and a password box. And we have created an hyperlink for new user.jsp page. When we click on the submit button, we will be redirected to a login servlet. Let's run the code. You can see that it asks for the username and password. I have registered earlier, so I am entering username and password. Click on login. You can see that the output is welcome Sam, and below it we have a hyperlink. Go to your profile. I have entered username and password and it shows my name which I entered at the registration time. So let's view the content of a login servlet. The a login servlet execution starts from this line. These two lines retrieves the username and password we entered. Now in try block, if condition checks whether the username and password are null or not. If either of them is null, then error message is printed that provide all the details, and it gives the login page link. If username and password are not blank, then else block will be executed. In the first line, we are loading the JDBC driver. In the next line, we are creating the connection. And in the next line, we create the statement. Statement.execute query executes the given query and stores all the result into RST object. In the if block, we are checking whether there is any data in RST or not. If there is any data, Then we are checking whether the given password, username both matches with the database data or not. If it matches, then user is authenticated and we are creating a session for that particular user using session.get attribute. If it is not matching, then we are printing not true message. And in the next line, we are closing the connection. Welcome friends. In this tutorial, you will learn how to register a new user using JSP. This is the file to demonstrate the registration. See the action attribute of form. It is set to form servlet. Method is set to post. There are several text boxes in the form. One is for name, other is for username, next is for password, for gender and for city. When we click on the submit, the control will go to form servlet. Let's run the file. Here it requires data for the new registration. Let's do it. Click on the submit. You can see the message from the servlet that sign up is successful. Below it we have a hyperlink to the profile page. The file currently running is form servlet. So we will see the code of form servlet. This is the servlet file. These two lines gets the parameters from the request object. The parameters are name, username, password, the drop down menu selection and city name. We can see that in if block we are checking that whether any of the fields on the registration form was blank or not. If it was blank, then the if condition is true and it will print fill all the fields and it will print a hyperlink to the sign up page. Now if the condition is false, then control will go in the else block. The first line is class.forName. It loads the driver JDBC. The next line creates the connection. Connection.create statement creates the statement for the query. Statement.execute update executes the query, and connection.close closes the connection. After the data is inserted into the table, we are creating the session for that particular user which has signed up recently. Using the method session.setAttribute, we are creating session name user and setting it to username variable, that is the username of the current user. If there was an error during all the above operations, then the control will go in the catch block and it will print the error occurred.